It was worth the wait. It was worth it.
They were getting all their questions ready.
Clay and I were conspiring.
Maria.
Yes.
¿Cómo estás?
Clay,
You want to introduce?
would you like to, or?
No, I'll let you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you someone who probably needs no introduction.
Luciana Paluzzi, because I know it's for
Very good. And I've got to say that I've got a little age on Clay here, so I remember first seeing you in a film that I guess everybody thinks of you for, is Thunderball. One of the earliest James Bond films. And you were such a bad person. But I read an interview with you that said you loved playing bad guys.
Well, because it's more fun. I mean, yeah, it's just more exciting than just playing a girl that says, yes, I love you, and that's it. I mean, you just, in real life, you try to be as nice as you can. So this is like doing a fantasy thing. You know, it's fun to be playing a bad girl when you don't want to do it in real life.
Well, I want to take you back a little bit because I've always been interested in how you came from Italy to become a well-known star here in the United States. How did that all come about?
Because 20th Century Fox sent, they were looking for a girl to play in a television series called Five Fingers, and that was in 1959. I am the oldest person here, so some of you may not even remember 1959.
I confess.
But, so I was brought in to do this television series because they saw a test that I did for a movie, which I didn't get, that went to Sophia Loren, because it's not always very easy to be an actress. You get rejected at times, but this happens to everybody, so you don't feel so bad. And I was brought in to do that television series, and then they put me under the contract at 20th Century Fox, and I did a movie called Return to Peyton Place. I had a very brief marriage, and I was pregnant during the movie.
Push the microphone a little closer.
Yes?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you. We don't want to miss a word.
I will repeat if you missed it. Just raise your hand and I'll go over it again. So anyway, so then I did Return to Peyton Place, and then I went back to Italy, and I worked practically all over the world. I was very lucky because that gave me a chance to travel, being paid well, being met at the airport with roses and a limousine, and doing what I like to do the best. So I think I had a very lucky life. And even luckier when I met my husband of 39 years, he's sitting right there. He never comes with me because what is he doing? He works and he doesn't come with me to these things, but I'm lucky that I am. We were traveling together, so he's here with me. And I've had a very nice life, and I'm very grateful. And thanks also to people like you that really are making, the reason I like to come and do these shows is because I get so much love. And it's wonderful because, you know, you never interface with your fans, except, you know, if you meet them, it's rare, but it's wonderful to see the love that I get, and I finish the shows and I feel like 2 inches taller.
I just had a question.
Yes.
The Bond franchise had already exploded by the time you joined.
Yeah.
So coming into
not yet.
this big movie, what was that experience like?
This was the 4th
Right.
Thunderbolt was the fourth. So the first one, they didn't know what they were doing. The second one, no, in a sense, really, they took
No,
a
you're right,
chance.
you're right.
They didn't know.
Yeah,
They didn't
that's
know
right.
what was going to happen. The second one was already, you know, they were a little bit more assured. The third one was really a great success. So the fourth one, it transformed itself in a, if you are on a set and you're making a movie, every minute counts. You know, you have to go fast because it costs. Every minute goes by, it costs, the crew, the whatever. Here, we were in the Bahamas and big clouds, you know, every shot has to match the last one. So there would be a close-up and all of a sudden a big cloud would come out and stop. It doesn't look like the, you know, what it was 2 minutes ago, and nobody panicked. And we would be like 2 hours waiting for the perfect light to come again, and nobody was nervous. And the producers were not nervous because they knew that they were going to make their money back. So it was very pleasant. And Terence Young, who directed the picture, was James Bond. He just lived like James Bond, and he had all the sense of humor and the little touches. And he was the one that told Sean the little nuances that he had, you know, the little looks and whatever. Terence was James Bond. And he acted like that also behind the camera, in a sense. Our dressing room was not a little small room, whatever. It was a yacht. He would rent a yacht. And when we had dinner, he would put up tents on the beach with flowing white tents, and champagne would be served. I mean, that was the most fun movie I've ever made. I mean, you know, getting paid and having all of that, it's kind of cool.
Maybe they were afraid of what you might do if they didn't treat you.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've got to be one of the best. One of the best hit people I've ever seen in a movie. As a kid, we absolutely loved what you did. And you have a scene with the best line, and probably one of the best lines in any Bond movie from that time period, where you're dancing and the hit guy gets you, and he says, "Would you watch my date? She's dead on her feet."
Yeah, that was Terence.
Yeah.
He wrote that. So anyway, no, it's fun.
So I'd seen a story, I guess, for the press junket. Well, this was not the press junket, but this was during the filming when they allowed all the press to come in on the set. But they did it in the scene where you and Sean are in the bed.
Yes.
Could you tell them a little bit about that?
And that shows what a good actress I am. I tell you, to do a love scene with 40 people, not only the crew, but 40 people that are clicking away while you're acting, it's a little bit, but we had, because the budget didn't matter, they didn't care how much they spent, they brought in 2 big aeroplanes from London to the Bahamas, and they were filled with journalists. I think if I had to pay for the publicity that I got out of that picture, it would have cost me millions of dollars. There was no way that I had more covers and magazines and that are still like stuck up in the house, in the garage. And it was like they were with us everywhere. That I think the only place where we could go without them was when we went to bed. That was it. That was it. But they were with us they were there for like 10 days. And they followed us everywhere. Now, it just so happened that that scene though was shot in Pinewood, back in London. That was the interior. So, but they were, yeah, it was incredible. They were from all over the world, and so we got so much publicity, and it was fabulous.
Was that the movie that really opened it up for you? I mean, is there the one that really jump-started?
Okay, yes, it was, but at the same time, it was very strange because the intellectual, you know, you must understand, I'm Italian, so I was based in Italy. And I knew a lot of directors at that time that were like Fellini, I don't know if you mean them, lines anyway.
Yes.
Fellini, Antonioni, and then
Right.
and they didn't want to, and they were friends. I mean, I knew them and they loved me. There was like a nice relationship, but they didn't want to have a Bond girl in their movies.
Oh.
It was too. It didn't make any sense.
Gotcha.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yep.
So it was a good. The Bond movie was a good thing, and at the same time, was a bad thing. In the sense it stopped me from doing more, from doing films that were more interesting intellectually, because all of a sudden I was cast as a Bond woman, and that was it.
Yeah.
So.
I can't even imagine. I'd have loved to have seen you in a Fellini film or a Antonino film. It would have been
Me
awesome.
too.
Oh.
Another life. Next,
Well,
next time.
Any aspirations to maybe get in another film? Like maybe
No,
you would have
no,
another
no,
chance?
no. I stopped when I got married to Michael,
Uh-huh.
and that's will be 39 years,
Yeah.
October 24th. Because Michael was traveling all over the world for his own
Right.
work. And I had to decide, because you all know my age, and as I said, I'm the oldest person here, so I wish somebody would come up to me and say, oh, I remember, I was 28 when I saw your pictures. No, everybody says I was 6, I was 7, I was 8.
How about high school?
There is nobody that is older than I am. Anyway.
High school doesn't work. I was in high school.
High school.
Is that
it's
close?
getting
Better?
It's
Okay.
better. It's better. But so I haven't made a picture in 39 years, and I don't regret it because my marriage is solid and it's wonderful, and I'm happy that we are together. It was a choice, either you do one thing or you do the other, and because he was traveling and movies take you away all over.
Oh, they do.
It was a choice. Do I want to continue and never be with Michael?
Yeah.
Maybe once in a while, or do I want to have a happy private life? And so that was my choice, and thank God I did right.
So, Michael, have you thought about maybe retiring, and we could put you guys both in a movie?
It's cute enough.
I'll retire when I'm dead, and I'm not sure I'll be retired then.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I don't want to brag about my husband. My husband was, he had one company called Telepictures that became Telepictures Lorimer, which then was sold to Warner Brothers, and he was the president of all their international communication, and he has been really very busy, and that's why he was traveling all over the world. He's just like, he's not just sitting home doing nothing.
All right, let's go to the next big movie.
Yeah.
I think we need to have an introduction. Let's see here,
A little bit of a surprise.
to make this proper.
A little atmosphere to go along with the question.
Lower the lights.
Next question.
Now you'll be humming that all day.
But I got to find out too. How did you hear about being cast for Green Slime? How did that come about? 'Cause
My agent called me and said, would you like to do a picture for MGM called Battle Beyond the Stars?
Battle Beyond the Stars, right? Okay.
And I said, yeah, let me see the script. And he said, and it's set in Japan. And I went, oh, that sounds interesting. I've never been there. Because I like to travel and see other cultures. And so we went to Japan. And the director didn't speak a word of English. The crew was all Japanese, except for the other two actors. I mean, that was it. Nobody spoke a word of English. And it was an incredible experience, though, because the director, who I found out, was like an icon in in this kind of movies.
Mhm.
Kinji Fujisaki.
Right.
Kinji Fujisaki.
Very good.
Yeah. I still remember that. I don't remember what I ate yesterday, but Fujisaki. Yeah. And it was adorable and it was very nice, but it was a very slow process because everything he said in Japanese had to be translated in English to us, and then we would say, yeah, but can we do this instead, or whatever. And so it was like everything was like a long process. But it was incredible, and to meet all new sorts of people, and like I had an interview with a group of journalists from Japan, and they were asking me questions, and I said, I don't know what possessed me, I said, well, if I were living here, I would like to be a geisha girl, I wouldn't want to be a wife. And they looked at me like this, translation, and the faces, why? And I said, because, I said, the wives are sitting home all the time, and the geisha girls have all the fun. They go to the clubs, and is it true?
That's true.
So anyway, that was like...
And this is what, 1969 or so, I guess, so it was right around there, I guess. 68, I was just trying to think, that's...
Look it up.
That's a racy thing to say in Japan.
Yeah, I know, I didn't realize that, but I say what I think. So anyway, they took it well. They were all laughing and smiling because they got it. They agreed with me.
Now, had you worked with any of the other cast members in that movie before you
No.
did? Because we talked earlier
No.
when we were out at your table about one of my favorite actors, Richard Jaeckel, and I thought you guys had a great chemistry.
Well, because he was such a wonderful man. He just was a nice person. And you know immediately when you're on set, you know who are the nice people, who are not the nice people. And it's like sometimes you're surprised because I did a picture called Muscle Beach Party and we had 2 comedians in there. Wait a minute. Buddy Hackett, but no, what's the other one that makes fun of everybody and he's always
Rickles.
not? Don Rickles. Don Rickles. You would think that Don Rickles was the nasty one, you know, the way he treats people. And Buddy Hackett, that is always like this, would be the nice one. And it was totally vice versa. Totally vice versa. The way one was with the crew, who was so loving and nice and fun and caring, and the other one was a dictator, he was nasty. Sorry.
No, you're right. I worked with a child's benefit with Buddy Hackett.
Yeah.
He was one.
He was
Don Rickles, though, started out in this country as an actor. I mean, he was doing comedy in the little clubs and worked himself up. So I think he had probably had a better appreciation for what
But
actors
you know,
were
it's
going
also
through.
something innate. Either you are like this or either you're not. I remember meeting Paul Newman. I never made a picture with him, but it was one of the nice, in a social event, you know, where we had a dinner. He was making Cool and Luke, I think.
Cool Hand
Luke,
Luke,
and I don't remember. We had all dinner. He was so down to earth and so nice to everybody. And then some people are just not like that. It's their problem.
So, do you have any fond memories of Green Slime? Because it's become like a cult icon.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Horror films.
I don't know why. I mean, I have to see it again to understand because I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's playing this afternoon at 4 o'clock.
I know. My husband has never seen it. I want him to go see it and understand why.
It's a beautiful print. It's an MGM print,
Yep.
and I was very lucky to get it.
Thank you.
And I'm so proud to be shown. I didn't mean to interrupt, but as he spoke earlier, it's an absolute. You know, this stuff is all available in high def, you know, on DVDs and stuff. But as a film collector, to find something in this kind of shape, that's an original MGM lab print, it's going to be a wonderful showing this afternoon. I hope everybody will come see it. It's a terrific film. I was 10 years old when it came out, and it was important for 2 reasons. I loved it because it was a science fiction film, and as a 10-year-old boy, I fell in love with you.
That's a big part of it. So I told you it was the red hair. I was the same way. I mean, I'd seen you in Thunderball, and but I was a little bit older when Green Slime came out, and it was like I was smitten. It's like this.
You see, I'm blushing. So that's it.
Would you still have accepted the role if you knew the picture name was going to be Green Slime?
You know, I found out, I don't know. I don't know. I was very excited about going to Japan and being directed by a Japanese director. And also I had to pay the bills. You know what I mean? I
Sure.
was raising a son on my own. I was with my mom and I and my son, and I was like the man in the family. So there are certain pictures that I made that were not fabulous, and some but small roles and so on. But it depended on how much money I had in the bank. I would say, can I be frank? I mean, you know, sorry, this destroying an image. No, some of the pictures I made because I needed to, and so I'm not proud of all of them. But I liked the Green Slime because of. It was first of all, it was an MGM picture. It wasn't like something, you know, so I knew that it was going to be nice. But the special effects on that picture so many years ago, it's what people tell me that makes it so different and special, because today they do everything with the computers, but then it wasn't like that. So probably that's why it's a movie that
Oh, I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, I think that's why so many of us who grew up with it love it so much, because it's all the practical effects,
Right.
you know, and we get tired of the CGI stuff. In this country, Japanese monster movies were really catching fire. You had Godzilla and all of
Right.
these, and so and guys, you know, other movies that he had directed, they just
Right.
we think of them very lovingly. I don't know what it is about it. Saturday afternoons and the matinees and just watching this. Of course, my dad loved the film. So we both went and saw it on a Saturday afternoon matinee with all the little kids singing the song. You know? There's just, I don't know, it was like a family affair type
I
thing.
wonder if today's generation would be interested in seeing a movie like this, because it doesn't have all the special effects, really, the big ones.
Some of them. Yeah, there's a new crowd. I mean,
Yeah.
I know in the podcast that I do, we've had a younger crowd starting to come in. They're discovering all of these movies. And when we talked about the Green Slime, it was one of the most popular episodes I had. They
Really?
just absolutely loved that movie. It's a little campy, but it's fun. It looked like it was a lot of fun to make. It looked like you guys had a pretty good time.
We
on
did.
set.
We did. It's true. The sake helped.
The sake. Well, that eliminates the need for a question about any funny stories, because I'm sure it's.
Before we started this, Jim and I were talking about all the different things that you had done.
Mhm.
And it was almost like, well, who gets to ask this one? Who gets to ask
Right.
So I'm going to let Jim bring up this one first, and then I'll.
I may make an enemy here, though. I know. Luciana, you mentioned there were some movies you did because you had to do them or whatever.
Right.
This is probably one of them. But I remember one. I was a kid who haunted movie theaters, and this was at a time when indie films were coming out, you know, every other day. And I saw one that you did that I don't think has probably been even broadcast in the last 40 years. It was in the early 70s. It was called The Klansman, with Richard Burton, and it was O.J. Simpson's first film. That was
Yes.
how they built it.
Yes.
Turner Classic shows it.
Do they? Okay, 'cause
Yeah.
sometimes I have a hard time finding it. So
Yes.
Lee Marvin.
yeah, I mean it was just one of those gritty indie films that
Again,
came
this
out in
was
the early
directed
70s.
by the same director that did the Thunderbolt.
I
Terrence
didn't
Young
realize that. I
directed that.
didn't remember that.
And what I was doing in that group of people, God knows, because with my Italian accent. But we shot that picture in Oroville, up in Northern California. And I have to say, I was so distressed by what happened later on in life with OJ, because I remember him as one of the nicest kindest human beings ever on the set. While we had problems with Lee Marvin and Richard Burton, because at the time they were drinking a lot.
Yeah.
And so Terence never knew if they were going to show up on the set in the morning. It was always like a heart attack, kind of, would he be there or not? And my scenes with Richard, we have a scene in bed where I say my line, he looks at the girl behind the screen and she tells him what to say, and he repeats the line, and then I say my line, and then the girl tells him again what to say. I mean, that was really tough. But very nice man, by the way. Lee Marvin, I don't know, because I was afraid. I didn't. I never went and talked to him. But O.J. Simpson, I remember we had a lot of nights shooting, night shooting. And I'll never forget, we were all sitting, the stars get the chairs, and they're sitting there, and there are all the comparse, how do you say that in English? The people that work.
The extras?
The extras. It came to me in Italian, and I don't know why not in English. Anyway, there were a lot of them sitting around. And I saw him get up from his chair and go to a little old lady and say, "What are you doing sitting on the floor? Come and sit in my chair." And he didn't have to do that. And that, I thought that was so endearing. So I was very distressed. I guess drugs are not good for you, because what happened to him later changed him into somebody that I didn't know.
I'm just wondering how you managed to keep a straight face working with Richard Burton and that southern accent of his.
No, how did I manage when we couldn't have a dialogue.
That would be difficult,
The lines were always interrupted by the script girl who was telling him what to say, and we had to keep the expression, because they were rolling.
Sure, yeah.
It's not like they say cut and now we do
Yeah.
Richard. No, it was rolling, so you had to keep the expression and not look at the girl that was telling you what to say, but look at him, and you would hear the girl say it, and then he would repeat it. That was like a challenge.
It's painful.
A challenge.
Well, that wasn't too bad. I thought you might not want me to bring that one up. You know?
No, it was fun.
But in the different genres, there were two kind of fringe blaxploitation movies somewhere in there. One with Jim Brown, and the title of that one escapes me.
I posted up on what?
Black Gun.
Black Gun. Thank you. Who
Yeah.
said it?
Black Gun.
He knows
Okay.
everything.
That's our history.
And then a lot of TV. So one of the ones I remember was the third $6 Million Man movie before it went to the series.
Yeah.
The Solid Gold Kidnapping. Is that the one? Is that the title of that one? Does anyone know what the exact title of that one is? Okay. Any memories of doing that one?
No.
Well, you were doing a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff
there.
during
I did a lot.
I remember you playing a baroness in the Wild Wild West, and you were, every time we turned around, which was
I did
great.
one with Rod Taylor called, what was it called? Chaka.
Yep, Chaka.
Chaka. I'm trying to Winters. Who was the name of the comedian that I did a movie with? Who was adorable, kind of.
Oh, Jonathan Winters.
Jonathan.
Yeah, no, that's right.
No, that was a lot of fun.
He'd be
That
fun
was
to
a lot
work
of
with,
fun,
And you did a great thriller episode.
yeah.
Replayed the killer in that one.
Am I allowed to denounce that I don't remember things?
No.
Oh, absolutely.
We were talking about that earlier.
I was one of the first celebrities I ever met.
Yeah.
Was in a regular TV series, and I was one of those idiots who knew every episode that she ever was in, and said, "Do you remember this?" And she was, "No." It's still like about 50 of them. So.
You know, I worked for 27 years in this career, and it has been like a whirlwind. It's so fast and so many things, and at the time you should say, let's remember this. Like I should have kept all my clothes that I put on in Thunderball. Because today I could sell them and make, and make a fortune and give it to the dogs. Because we are very much into animals, and I help in charities for dog. When they
like dog
try
rescues?
to save dog rescues.
Yeah, how did you get into that? That's cool. That's interesting.
Because I love animals,
Yeah.
and my husband shares that passion with me, and we have 2 little dachshunds at home.
Very cool.
Yeah, and we love animals, and it's just like I cry at commercials when I see an animal that is abandoned on the ESP.
They're hard to watch.
Yeah. So that's, they are helpless. So I love to be able to help.
Do you have a particular project that you worked on, one that you remember, that, really stands out? Someone say, this was like the best moment of my acting career. Something that you really have a fond memory of?
Yeah, and it's a picture that actually was made, directed by one of those intellectual directors in Italy that nobody has seen outside of Italy, and she even got an Oscar, not for this picture, but her name is Lina Wertmüller, and the movie was called Let's Talk About Men, and it was episodic. At that time it was very much in fashion to do episodic movies in Italy especially. And I have to tell you, I never worked with somebody like that. She would tell you, I don't know, in the scene you have to smoke a cigarette and you have to put your leg up. And she would say, no, don't hold the cigarette there. You have to hold it at this, right there. Not here, not there, right there. Oh, okay. So you hold it like that. No, don't put your knee across like that. You have to put it just a little bit higher and stand like this. And then you have to say your lines. By now you feel like you are, and you say, this will never work. And then you go and see the end product, and it's fabulous. Yeah. She was like sensational. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she transformed you into this figurine that she molded. And it was really, I said, never, it was not going to work. I'm going to be so stiff. No, it flew like a, so that was my favorite director, aside from Terrence, because it's my number one. But that was my favorite.
Let's Talk About Men, was the name of it?
Yeah, it's called.
I gotta look for that. I love Lina Wertmüller.
In Italian it's called Questa volta parliamo di uomini. This time we talk about men. But it was fabulous.
No, I don't think it's ever made it over.
No, it didn't make it over here, no.
I can think of 3 or 4 films that have done well here, but not that one. Wow.
Michael, you have to find a way to find me a copy.
I'm gonna find it.
Yep.
No, I'm gonna look for that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go find that.
Where, in Italy?
I don't know.
I don't
Well,
know.
see, the beauty is with the internet now, you can search worldwide for
Find
films
a
and
copy
stuff.
of it.
Really?
So it's much easier than when I was growing up and you had to just go to the, either get them by mail or whatever. But you can find things easier now. But and she is one that I love. I love her work. So.
Yes.
Got to find it. Wow, I had no idea you'd work with Lina Wertmüller.
Yeah. You see?
Learn something new.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
what was one of the other ones that we had talked about?
See, no, I'm.
Last Tycoon. That was
Oh, the Last Tycoon, yeah.
That was also my last picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was.
The Last Tycoon and the last picture
Mhm.
at the same time. What do you want to know?
Any fond memories of that one? I mean, was it sort of bittersweet that you were? Did you know when you were doing
what
the film
happened?
that,
I'll tell you what happened. Within the first 2 weeks of shooting, I had a terrible car accident where I had my son sitting on my right. I was going to go and see Anthony Quinn's kids that were supposed to play with my son, same age. And we were on this highway in a little street. On the right came a car that just smashed into my car. So I flew out of the windshield, which I still don't understand how it happened, because the space between the steering wheel and the top was maybe like this. Maybe like this. The whole thing crashed. I flew out. I found myself turn around. I mean, it's impossible. If you try to do it as a stunt, I don't know how you do it. I found myself facing my son, and the car was still going. And I was saying, this is the last time I'm going to see him, because when it stops, the car is going to go over me. I was lucky, the car stopped against the pilaster, is that pilaster?
Yeah.
Pilaster?
Yeah.
And I fell in front of it, but the car was stopped, so I just got a big gush in my head, and I was taken to the hospital, and that was the end of my movie, so my role was cut, and that was it.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was my last picture, ended with an accident.
Going out with a bang.
Yeah, with a big bag on my head. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some new stories that I didn't know.
So you do some crafts, I know. I read that online as a hobby.
Very.
Yeah. I love to.
I've been sitting here admiring it.
I can only go straight because I can't. Does anybody knit here? You do? You know how to do sweaters and things like that? I'm not at that level. I can only go straight because I watch TV. I do it on the plane, and I forget if I have to knit or to. What's the other one? Pearl. Pearl, so I just go straight, but then I add my little touches. I do little things there that I add, but you know, I don't do it all the time. I go through periods. I will do it for 2-3 months and then nothing, but I have enough scars to last me for a long time.
Okay, because you just opened the door on something. How about you got a favorite TV show that you knit to? Favorite movies that you like to watch?
Well, my favorite TV shows I don't need to, because I want to
You watch, okay.
So
Oh, what is your favorite?
This Is Us.
This Is Us. Okay.
This Is Us I love.
Yes.
We love, both of us. What else do we
How about a favorite movie you show? Maybe that you've seen recently.
Oh, I don't
That's a tough question.
Yeah. What have we seen that we loved? Well, I can't think of one. I think that today TV is better. I mean, unless you want to go see this
That's a good point.
science
Yeah.
fiction.
No, I can't argue with you on that.
But-
I'm the same way.
TV
Yeah.
is better. I can't wait. I think tomorrow night they're starting Madam Secretary again.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that. We love that. The characters, the people are just, it's wonderful to see. So we watch a lot, we record everything, and football games also.
Favorite team?
Giants.
The Giants. Oh, right. The season.
Otherwise,
I'm
that
New York.
would be a divorce if I win. But we also like the Rams now. The Rams are really good. Yeah, the Rams are really good.
Okay.
Yeah, the Giants are...
Yeah, it's not been a good year for them, no.
No, but we hope. So, what else?
There was, okay, I'm gonna cheat. 'Cause I'm like,
Oh, you
I
are
can
right.
remember some of the
You
dates
are-
of this stuff, but I can't
Go ahead,
remember
Chief, and then we're going to
Wednesday
ask some of the folks
is
out there if they have
trash.
questions.
Yes.
So, yeah, does anyone have a question?
Yeah.
We've got a few.
Yes?
Hi, yes, I wanted to ask you what you remember about the Venetian Affair with Robert Vaughn and Boris Karloff.
It was a job. It was a job. Yeah, a job. And it wasn't particular. It was a little bit arrogant for my taste. So, my role wasn't memorable either. So, but
That's fine.
sorry.
It's all right.
I wish I could tell you more, but.
No problem.
Was it part of the academics in school in Italy for you to learn English? Is that how you learned to speak English?
No, actually the language was French, so I speak French, and English came later when I went to England I was put under the contract by J. Arthur Rank, and I did a picture called Sea Fury with Victor McLagan and Stanley Baker. Yeah.
Yeah.
So English came after.
Well, was it difficult for you to
I'll
learn
tell you,
at an
English
older
is
age?
it's a very easy language to learn. Now German is tough because they conjugate everything, all the adjectives, but English is really easy once you get the pronunciation, and it's easy. So I also, it's a gift. I think learning language has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with a year, you have a year for it or not. So I speak Italian and English and French and Spanish. Maria. Vamos a hablar español. So anyway, it's just that it was no, French was the language we had to learn.
Really?
Interesting.
But because we were so close, I don't know. Yes?
When, in your early life, when did you start acting and how did you get into acting?
Into acting? Well, actually what I wanted to do when I was really young, at least I had a desire, because I find that today kids they don't know what they're doing. They come out of school and they say, I don't know what I want to do. I was lucky because I wanted to do something, and I wanted to be a naval engineer. I wanted to build big, huge ships, not small yachts. I wanted to build the Titanic, I guess, whatever. And so I went in Italy. You have a choice. When you're 13, you either choose the scientific lyceum or the classical, where you learn, Greek and history, whatever. So I went into the scientific lyceum, and I was there for a year, and I was in a class with all boys. I was the only girl there. But one night I went out with my family for dinner, and it was a long table, and my father, who was a colonel in the army, and who thought that even being a ballerina at La Scala was not really, he wanted me to be a teacher. So I went out for dinner with them, and his best friend was a director, assistant director or production manager of every movie that came to Italy or to France or whatever. He spoke many languages, and he was known as the point of reference. When you come and shoot a movie in Italy, you call him and he will organize everything. So he's sitting there and he's saying, Jean de Gulesco, the picture was 3 coins in the fountain. So he's driving me crazy for this little role, 2 lines, and he says, and he doesn't like anybody, and I brought him up 300 girls, and in that moment his eyes laid on me, and he said, why don't you come up tomorrow? And so my father, who thought being an actress, he was like, but this is his best friend, so he trusts me. He said, this is a passing thing, it's gonna not last. Yeah, go, you're allowed. I looked at him and said, you're allowed. So I don't know why. I went up, and Jean de Gulesco said, I told him a little joke in English, the only thing I knew in English, and he laughed and he said, yes, she's fine. I want her. So my mom and I went to location, and I said, oh my gosh, look at that. I said, they're paying me a lot of money to say 2 little phrases in the movie. I'm traveling first class. I'm in a beautiful hotel in a lovely room. I said, oh, this sounds so much fun. I said, maybe I should keep on doing this. And so I went from 2 lines to 3 to 5 to 10, and within a year and a half I started to get roles that were a little bit bigger, and so then my career started, continued on, so for 27 years.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Got a question? Okay.
Yes, you mentioned your accident earlier, and if I understood correctly, you said you were facing your son at one point?
I was flat on the hood of the car, and I was looking at my son. He was there. I flew out like this, and I was with my hands and trying to grab onto the car. There was nothing to grab on, and I was looking at him and I was saying, this is it, I'm never gonna see him again. But
Was your son okay?
my son had, yeah, it's the weirdest thing because the car hit him first.
Oh,
And he had a scratch on his, I mean, he was banged on his arm,
Yeah.
but he was fine. So we were very lucky,
yes.
yeah.
Somebody in the back had a question. I see a hand up in the back?
Yeah, can you tell us anything about the man from Akko?
No,
That's right, you heard that too.
I'm sorry.
So this was the other one. This is called a Black Veil for Lisa. And I remember seeing this one.
That's the one with John Mills.
Yeah. John Mills.
Yeah. Yeah, we shot that in Hamburg, in Germany. What would you like to know?
Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah,
Just
yeah, I remember John Mills being such a wonderful, you see, I say who is nasty and who is not, and he belongs to the category of gentleman, wonderful, sweet, funny, really nice, very nice man.
and that one you played not a bad person.
Oh,
you were
what happened?
yeah. So, you were the killer or the villain, or you were the good girl.
In Chaka, I was nice. I was,
She was nice and green slime.
yeah, I was nice and good stuff.
But you always in Green Slime felt she wanted to battle those things. You know? You were hoping as a kid that she would bust out.
As I
You'd be the
look
one.
back, I died a lot in many pictures. I get
Did
shot.
you?
I
did?
died in many, many films.
But to die in the arms of Sean Connery, I mean, it doesn't get
Are we hearing your secret fantasy?
I agree. I agree. We are still friends. I mean, I haven't seen him now for a few years, but until 4 or 5 years ago, he and his wife Micheline, they came.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a dinner at the house. We had a dinner at the house with Roger Moore and Sean and the wives. And it was a wonderful evening, except the two wives didn't like each other.
Oh.
So it was very tense that way, but you know, I would go to, so where is the bathroom, Luisa would say, with the Italian accent, like if I don't have one. And I would take her to the bathroom and say, oh, Micheline, then Micheline would say, where is the bathroom? I'll take you there. And she was, oh, Louisa, it's such a...
That's a movie in itself.
The two boys loved each other.
Yeah.
Roger and Sean were best of friends. So, no, it was a wonderful evening. It really was. You're too late.
Anybody else have a question? We're just about near the end here. Go ahead.
What do you do with the dogs?
Well, there is, first of all, we rescued one just 5 years ago. He's now 6, and Monty, and he's adorable. There is I find that in the United States, everybody is very giving, and you have association and for cancer and diabetes and children and animals. And in Italy, it's not so organized. And it's only way of Facebook where people help each other, but there is not really an organization that is serious and doesn't take most of the money and put it in their pockets, which happens also in the United States. But at least some of it goes somewhere. There is a lady called Donata Campanella, that's her name. She's in Sicily, and she's an ophthalmologist during the day, but she has this love for dogs, and she rescues dogs that are abandoned in the streets or they drop in front of her gates, and sometimes she swears in Italian, she says, those sons of bitches, they drop 5 little babies in front of me, and she has to take care of all of them. So most of the money that I make goes to this lady. And Because she doesn't have anybody except a few people on Facebook that send her money, and she has to take care of them. And she was evicted from the space where she had been for many years. She had to find a new place, and that cost money to put the fences up. And I mean, you can follow her, but I'm sure that you won't remember the name, but you can follow her on Facebook and see how she's doing. And I
She has 150 dogs that she takes care of.
yes,
Wow.
they go from 150 to 200, and they all look. When I see pictures, I said, not even my dogs look so nice, and I wash them personally because I don't want to take them, and then they get traumatized when they go outside the house. So, and they're small, it's easy. But no, I used to wash also Chucho, was a German Shepherd. So anyway. They are so beautifully kept. You see them there all together, and nobody fights, and they are all big, small, and she has so many of them, and they all get along. So I like to help them.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you so much for coming.